Hot water splashed over me, scalding my skin, and I stumbled backward, clutching my arm in shock. "You deserve this!" my mother-in-law sneered, her eyes glinting with cold satisfaction. I could barely process what had just happened. I don't understand," I stammered, staring at the woman I had once hoped to call family. "This is my house, and you don't belong here," she continued, her voice filled with contempt. I had no words, just a searing pain and a sudden, desperate need to escape. The reality hit me hard. This was never the home I had dreamed of. My name is Savannah. I had married Bruce about 2 years ago. We were from the same university and had been dating since then. Both of us, graduates of the economics department, aspired to work in finance and managed to secure jobs at different brokerage companies after graduation. Despite our busy days, we maintained our relationship. 3 years later, Bruce proposed. "Savannah, I will definitely make you happy. Marry me," he said. Believing that I could be happy with Bruce, I accepted. "Yes, I'm looking forward to it." We decided to get married, thinking we could build a happy family together. However, Bruce then dropped an unexpected bomb. "Hey, Savannah, would you quit your job and live with me at my parents' house?" he asked. "What?" "I don't mind quitting my job, but we're newlyweds. I'd like to live with just the two of us," I replied. "I'm just worried about leaving my mother alone. I'll make sure it won't be a burden to you," he insisted. Bruce's father had passed away when he was in middle school, and since then he had lived with his mother. Being an only child, Bruce was concerned about her. Understanding his feelings, I agreed. "Okay, I'll live with you." 2 weeks later, we moved into my husband's family home. My mother-in-law, now able to live with her son, initially greeted us with a pleased expression. However, as soon as she looked at me, her expression clouded. She stared at me coldly, making it painfully clear that I was not welcome. "It doesn't matter. You didn't have to come here," she muttered, then added, "What did I do this year?" I thought I heard my mother-in-law muttering something under her breath, but I couldn't make it out clearly. I smiled and brushed it off at this point. I began to feel a bit anxious about living with her. However, the day passed without any particular issues. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my mother-in-law yelling at me. "Are you still sleeping? Hurry up and prepare breakfast," she shouted. When I checked the clock by my bed, it was still before dawn, around 4 a.m., and it was dark outside. I was surprised that she would demand breakfast so early. "Why so early?" I asked, still groggy from sleep. "Don't just laze around because you're not working," my mother-in-law scolded me. I thought it was way too early in the morning, but I couldn't argue back and started preparing breakfast. Even while preparing breakfast, my mother-in-law kept berating me. "Hurry up, why does it take you so long? You're so slow," she complained. After 30 minutes, breakfast was finally ready. "I'm sorry for making you wait," I said. "You finally finished. Can't you make it faster?" my mother-in-law complained again. I wanted to retort that it was physically impossible to do it any faster, but I just smiled and shrugged it off. "What is this? This soup is too salty." My mother-in-law was outraged. "What? I don't think it's that salty," I replied, confused. "What are you saying? There's something wrong with my taste. Are you trying to kill me quickly by feeding me such salty meals?" she accused. "I never thought or intended such a thing. What is she talking about? And why is she so harsh on me?" Curious, I mustered the courage to ask my mother-in-law. "Why are you so harsh on me?" I asked. "What are you talking about? I don't think I'm being harsh. Or are you trying to make me the bad guy?" she snapped. "No, that's not what I mean," I said, overwhelmed by my mother-in-law's pressure and unable to talk back. "Finish eating, start cleaning. After that, there's laundry to do, so there's no time to rest," she ordered. Since then, every day, I was continually harassed by my mother-in-law, wearing me down both mentally and physically. While I was cleaning, she would say things like, "You missed the dust in the corner." When I was doing laundry, she'd complain, "There's still a stain." A month after starting to live with her, I felt like I was going to break, so I talked to Bruce about it. "It's about your mother. She's been saying mean things to me every day, and it's hard. Could you please tell her not to say such things?" I pleaded. But Bruce showed no reaction. I was momentarily irritated by Bruce's lack of response. But then I noticed something strange about him. He was pale, as if he had something important to say. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" I asked. Bruce hesitantly began to speak. "Actually, I've been fired from the company." "What is this? Some kind of joke?" I was speechless, unable to comprehend. Bruce explained, "There was a downsizing at the company and I got laid off. Due to recent economic downturns, the company's profits had plummeted, leading to unavoidable large-scale layoffs." "So you'll be unemployed from tomorrow?" I asked. "Well," Bruce replied, "I can work for 1 more month after receiving the notice of dismissal, but after that," he trailed off. Fortunately, I had been using my knowledge from my time at the securities company to trade stocks. Although I struggled at first, I was now earning about $30,000 a month, so we weren't struggling financially. I was comforting Bruce and had forgotten about all the harassment from my mother-in-law. From the next day onwards, I endured my mother-in-law's harsh treatments as Bruce lost his job. Feeling the need to be strong and support him, I continued to endure the situation. A month passed, and Bruce was officially laid off and became unemployed. He started looking for a job initially, but gradually he began to spend most of his time at home making excuses. "Shouldn't you start looking for a job more seriously?" I suggested. "Yeah, I'm looking," Bruce said, "but it's hard to find a good company that will suit me." He seemed to have no intention of actively seeking new employment. Reluctantly, I continued to support our household. As time passed, the harassment from my mother-in-law intensified, and I grew increasingly exhausted. Initially, I thought I had to endure it because Bruce was unemployed, but I no longer felt that way. I spent my days feeling listless. One day, Bruce unusually went out in the morning. Perhaps he had finally started to seriously look for a job. After seeing him off, I started cleaning as usual. "Make sure it's clean. Do it properly," my mother-in-law said, sipping coffee on the living room sofa, hurling sarcasm at me. Fed up, I ignored her. Suddenly, she threw a tantrum and yelled at me. "How dare you ignore me? You're just a mere daughter-in-law. You don't even have a job," she screamed. Ignoring her, I continued cleaning. She grew angrier and confronted me. "Still ignoring me? Unemployed and uneducated people like you should leave this house," she shouted, and then poured boiling water on me, the hot water she had prepared for her coffee. "It's hot. Please stop," I screamed involuntarily at her sudden action. Thankfully, the water wasn't super boiling hot, so I didn't suffer any burns, but it could have been a disaster. Finally reacting, she went on, "This is exactly what I've been saying. If you're not working, then leave this house." She spoke with a smirk. Fed up with her behavior, I had no choice but to agree to her demand. "All right, I'll leave," I responded. "Good. That makes things easier. Leave quickly," she insisted. I quickly packed my things and decided to leave that day. I no longer wanted to spend another second in that house. I left, heading straight to my parents' home. Upon arrival, my parents were surprised by the sudden visit, but welcomed me warmly. I waited for a call from Bruce, but there was neither a phone call nor a message. Feeling a bit lonely, I decided not to contact him until he reached out. A month passed since I returned to my parents' house, but there was still no contact from Bruce. My feelings for him faded, and I started considering divorce. One early morning, the doorbell at my parents' house rang. On the monitor, I saw, to my surprise, Bruce and my mother-in-law. "What now, after all this time?" I thought. "Yes, what can I do for you?" I asked through the intercom. "I've forgiven you, now come back home quickly," my mother-in-law yelled through the intercom as usual. Forgiving me? What's she talking about? I thought. Her words surprised me, but I hadn't done anything that required forgiveness from her. After telling her that, I ended the intercom call, boiling with anger at my mother-in-law's attitude. However, they were persistent, banging on the front door violently. "Don't just hang up on me. Come on, let's go back," my mother-in-law yelled. Considering the noise they were making could become a hassle to the neighborhood, I reluctantly opened the door, inviting my mother-in-law and Bruce inside. After seating them on the sofa in the living room, I inquired about their unexpected visit, wondering why they were both there all of a sudden. It was my mother-in-law who had insisted that I leave, and now she was telling me to come back. The situation was perplexing, and I couldn't make any sense of it. You're the one who told me to leave. There's no way I can go back now, I asserted. My mother-in-law responded with frustration. Stop being childish. I've forgiven you, so come back. I'll even let an unemployed and uneducated person like you stay in my house. But I'm not the unemployed one. It's Bruce, I shot back. And if I go back, you'll take advantage of me every day. I might not be working, but what about your son, huh? Bruce seemed surprised at this revelation. My mother-in-law appeared confused, indicating that Bruce hadn't informed her about his layoff. Pressed further, Bruce finally admitted to being laid off from the company. Apologies and explanations ensued, with Bruce justifying his actions by relying on my income for financial stability. My mother-in-law, shocked at the news, openly expressed anger toward Bruce for not finding a job yet. Why did you keep quiet about this? What are we going to do now? She scolded him. Bruce assured her, my income will suffice for the time being, but his words only led my mother-in-law to label him as worthless for not actively seeking employment. Fed up with Bruce's excuses, I couldn't believe that I had ever thought of supporting him. When my mother-in-law suggested I come back, I vehemently rejected the idea, considering all the mistreatment I had endured. Their unexpected visit had turned into a heated argument, revealing the truth about my mother-in-law pouring boiling water on me. Bruce was shocked to learn about this incident and confronted his mother. Why did you do that? He asked her. She admitted to the act, attributing it to my ignoring her. The revelation sparked a heated exchange between Bruce and his mother, prompting me to intervene and urge them to take their arguments home. Realizing the impact of their loud arguments on someone else's house, my words prompted a change in their attitudes. Previously assertive and bold, they now pleaded with me to come back, promising that they wouldn't cause any harm again. Despite their pleas, I saw through their intentions. Bruce's promise to find a job seemed insincere, and my mother-in-law's assurance not to cause trouble appeared dubious. I voiced my skepticism, stating that their words were pointless and that they would only take advantage of me. Their silence confirmed my suspicions, and I left them in the living room, heading to my room, leaving them to contemplate their actions. When I returned to the living room 5 minutes later, they were still sitting in silence with their heads down. Frustrated by the prolonged quiet, I finally asked, "How long do you plan to stay silent?" "It doesn't matter to me anymore." Instead of answering, Bruce looked down and noticed a document I had left on the table. It was a pre-filled divorce form, with my name already signed. Bruce stared at it, looking completely bewildered. I bluntly clarified, "Can't you tell it's a divorce form? I'm done with someone who refuses to find a job and didn't even bother to contact me after I went back to my parents' house." "Do wait, please. This is too sudden," Bruce protested. I found his stubbornness irritating, as he seemed oblivious to the fact that his actions were the root cause of our problems. Unmoved, I affirmed, "I've made up my mind. My decision to divorce you won't change, no matter what you say." Bruce, still in disbelief, questioned if divorce was too harsh. Coldly, I responded, "I don't think so. It's your fault." I directed the same coldness toward my mother-in-law, who was partly to blame. Resigned to the situation, Bruce signed the divorce form, warning me not to regret it. However, I felt a sense of relief and asserted, "The one who might regret it is you, Bruce. I'll submit the divorce form. I don't want any compensation, just go home." With that, I finalized my divorce from Bruce. Though it may have seemed harsh, it was necessary to escape the harassment from my mother-in-law and Bruce's unemployment. 2 weeks later, while relaxing at my parents' house, I received a call from my ex-mother-in-law. She informed me, "The electricity and gas have been cut off. Did you do something?" I explained, "I stopped paying for Bruce and your living expenses." Hoping for my assistance, she asked, "Can you cover it just for the month?" I found her request absurd. Considering we were no longer a couple and didn't live together, I firmly declined, suggesting, "Why don't you ask Bruce for help, as he promised to find a job?" Unable to comprehend my refusal, she pleaded, "Please, just help me this once. You were his wife." However, I remained firm, ending the call and blocking her number. Finally, I severed ties with both my ex-mother-in-law, who constantly harassed me, and Bruce, who had proven to be unreliable. Life at my parents' house became peaceful, and I focused on rebuilding my life. Months later, while checking stock charts on holiday, I received a message from Bruce. He apologized for everything, acknowledging his reliance on me, and mentioned he had recently found a job at a factory. Despite the apology, I had no intention of getting involved with them again. Bruce mentioned his mother's continued harshness and expressed a desire for me to come back. Reading the message, I believed reconciliation was unlikely. I blocked Bruce's number. 6 months after the divorce, I started dating a man introduced by a friend. He was reliable, treated me well, and despite the age difference, we connected. While marriage was not on the immediate horizon, I cherished the happy times we spent together, focusing on the present and leaving the past behind.